So we are live now. So
Wonderful.
hey, yeah. So hey guys, hope you're enjoying your day. So thanks a lot for joining in today. Another welcome talk show from WeInkWriters, and I'm your host Santosh. And today we have David with us, joining from Japan.
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Yeah, so he'll be telling more about the behind the language scene. So how you structure yourself and how to learn things. And he has his own program which he runs. So you can talk about that later. So we'll have an I will give you some time at the end so that you can tell the students that what the course that you offer and that will really benefit. So I have seen a lot of posts from your course. So since I really I thought of taking that up, so I have some work, so I was unable to do that. But I highly recommend people taking that course, so they develop their communication skills and everything. So overall, language learning skills, and they do you teach like learning things exactly right. So you
Yeah,
don't specify to languages. You teach like how to learn things. So
yeah,
many people don't exactly know the trick of learning things. They just
yeah,
want to course and they just want to get a certificate or something and they just want to go. So that's really great. So with a small story of yours, we will start. Okay, so you can tell about your short story kind of thing.
sure. Yeah, first of all, Santosh, thank you so much for having me on your show. I really do appreciate this. To be honest, I'm feeling a little bit nervous, so excuse me if I stammer or stumble over my words. So, good evening, everyone. My name is David. I'm Indian. I was born and raised in Brunei, so I've never lived in India. I've been to India plenty of times to visit family, and the longest that I've been there on a single visit is about 3 months, I guess. But Brunei, the country where I was born and raised, is not actually an English-speaking country. The national language there is Malay. So I grew up being trilingual, if we can say that. I went to school where English was the medium of instruction. I spoke Tamil at home because my family is Tamil. And I spoke Malay which is the national language of Brunei. I spoke Malay with the kids who used to live on my street because they went to Malay medium schools and they couldn't speak English. So
Okay.
our common language when we used to play together and ride our bicycles and all of that was Malay. So that's how I grew up. And I now live and work in Japan. So I work at a Japanese car sales and distribution company. So everything we do here at work, for me at work, is in Japanese. So I speak Japanese as well. So 4 languages in total.
That's really great.
Yeah.
So we have some few questions. We'll take that up, and then you can tell about your course and how you teach people, and you can tell that. And if there is something to promote, or you can enrich students, knowledge, you can do that.
Sure.
So yeah. So what do you suggest for the students to keep in mind when they fail? So they fail, they pick up something, they try doing that and they fail. So what kind of thing that you give to them to make them boosted up to do the thing again?
I don't. Well, okay. I can. I can only speak for myself.
Okay.
I myself have been like in my dad's own words, which is something that hurts me to this day. My dad, he passed away last year, but like at one point he said to me, "You are." He said it in Tamil, but it was the equivalent of saying you are the biggest failure you could possibly be, and you're going to amount to absolutely nothing. Is what and for somebody like me who actually doesn't really care what anyone thinks, I'm not really that sensitive to what people say. But when it comes from somebody that is so close to you, someone that
Close.
you trust so much, and it's your own father, that really cuts deep. So, and to be fair, there was like my father wasn't entirely wrong in his assessment at that point in time when he said that, because I'd messed up big time at that point. So like when the one thing I'd say is every time you fail, there are going to be consequences, and damage will be done when you fail in something. Some that damage may be small or big, but and you can't control that. And you may be able to fix some things, and other things you can't fix. You have to live with the consequences of that for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality. There isn't like you're going to hear motivational speakers say, "Oh, don't worry about making mistakes. It's all good. You should make more mistakes." Yes, to a certain degree, but understand that it's going to come with consequences, some of which you cannot fix, and you have to live with them for the rest of your life. Now, how do you take that and make it something that is worthwhile? Is the only thing you can do is make it a learning experience, and that learning experience can benefit you. So obviously you grow and you learn and you become a better person, but more importantly, that becomes an opportunity for you to educate others that you have influence over, so that they don't make those same mistakes. And I've found that for me, as much as I have regrets, I have plenty of things that I've done over my life that I deeply regret even to this day. That regret doesn't eat me up from within. It's not something that bothers me. I found peace with it because I've been able to learn from it, and also make that an opportunity or a story that I can share with other people so that they don't make those same mistakes.
Great.
Yeah.
So exactly, when people make mistake, they fail and they don't try that. If they fail,
Yeah.
once or twice and they give up. So they don't want to enter into that. Another thing is that people have these two things, strengths and weaknesses. So
Mhm.
how do you think that people should invest time on strengthening themselves with the strengths, or you recommend people to strengthen their weakest part? So what do you what do you prefer, or what is your personal choice? Let's go with that way. So what's your
Yeah.
personal choice? Would you train your strengths furthermore, or you go with weakness and train it a little better and make it a little smarter as well?
My personal approach has always been to focus on my strengths. And the simple reason is that it motivates me more, and it's something that makes sure that I stay consistent with working on it. If it is a weakness, and let's say it's a weakness which I have naturally or innately,
Okay.
and let's say I'm not naturally inclined to that particular skill, no matter how much I train or work on it, somebody else who was born with natural strengths in that area is still going to do better than me if they put in the
Yeah.
same amount of work as me. And so in a competitive world, which it is, if you're talking about, let's say, building a career, you have the best chances of success if you develop your strengths, because then you're going to become one of the best in your field, and the better you are at what you do, the more value you have, and the more value that you can offer and you can demand in terms of how you get compensated. At the same time, being very mindful of your weaknesses is important, because for me right now, I'm now like 3 months into running this online course thing that I'm doing.
Okay.
In the beginning, I was doing everything myself, and that was insanely difficult. I now have like a team of about 5 people helping me with various tasks, and the tasks that I've delegated to them are the things that I'm weakest in, and I focus on the things that I'm best at, and that way together as a team, we're each working on our strengths, and that's how we create something that's truly great. Yeah.
Great. So exactly, we need to work on our strengths to make it even much better, and we have to shine in that area.
Yeah.
Exactly. So in this digital era, so many people are taking up courses, and do you think that self-teaching yourself is really important, or you need someone to teach you things, or you just kind of go there, go to the world and learn things, and you fail and learn, or you read someone's failure and then learn from that? So what do you prefer?
I prefer to be spoon-fed just like anyone else. um, if you're being taught by somebody who has all of the knowledge there with them, that does put you at an advantage. You have basically like immediate access to feedback and coaching and support, and I value that. But that comes at a cost, at a price. It takes a certain degree of financial investment usually,
Yeah.
and not everybody has access to that. Not everyone can afford that, or perhaps the thing that you want to learn might not be on top of your list of priorities. There may be other things that you
Yeah.
want to invest more in, and that's completely fine. But the most valuable asset, or I'll put it this way, even if you have the best teachers and the best learning resources available to you, if you don't know how to learn effectively, that's not going to help you. People can teach you, but nobody else can do the learning for you. That is something that
Exactly.
only you as the learner have control over.
Exactly. So the learner has to put in some effort and he has to learn. So as you said, exactly like the same thing. They have the course, they have the material, they have everything that they want, but they don't put the effort in. So we have some people around, they don't put the effort, they have the resources and they don't utilize them to the
Yeah.
fullest maybe.
Yeah.
So another pretty common thing is there are people from Tamil Nadu. I have seen people like they struggle a lot in talking English. I too, I actually do. So what is the do you think language is just a tool or it is furthermore like you have some your mother tongue is something and you speak something out of your mother tongue. So you speak English or you speak Malay or some or any other language for an example. So do you think language is just a tool or it is something more interconnectable? So when you talk in other languages.
I would say it's both. Language is perhaps, and I say this now, but I didn't always feel this way growing up. I say this now because just looking back over my career, every major milestone in my career has been the product of my language skills. And it's not something that I intentionally wanted to develop. Like I never did it deliberately. It just happened. And the reason why it just happened is because I've always been a people person. I've always just enjoyed connecting with people and building relationships. And in order to do that, you need to communicate, right? So language
Exactly.
has for me, it's, subconsciously, it was just a means to an end. It was just a way for me to communicate with others and make friends and build relationships. And that's really it. And just as a kind of like without realizing, after graduating from my first degree, I did aviation management as my first degree. And after graduating, I couldn't get a job in the industry. I applied to hundreds of different vacancies. I didn't hear back from any of them. And just as a backup plan, I applied to an English teaching job in Japan. This was back in 2012, with no experience, no formal training or education in language training or language teaching. And this particular company, because they taught conversational English rather than academic English, here in Japan, they already have English as a subject in school, but a lot of students would go to these private English conversation institutes to just practice their conversation skills. And for that, what this company, or most companies here, what they look for is just anybody who is able to speak the language well. And that's it. And they have their own curriculum, they have their own teaching methodology, and they teach you how to teach once you get the job in your first week of training, onboarding. So I went, applied for this job as a backup option, got called in for the interview. The rest is history. I got the job. It was the only job I had at the time. So with no other options, I packed my bags, moved to Japan, had no teaching experience, and I just kind of learned on the job. And then from there, I went to Malaysia. I did mechanical engineering for 4 years. And for the entire 4 years, in every group project that I did, my role was always the non-technical role. I was the presentation guy. So like the other guys in the group, they were way smarter than me. They knew the technical stuff much better than I did, and they would actually explain it to me and help me understand it. But when it came time for us to deliver that presentation at the end of our project, I was the go-to guy. And and then I did like some other like competitions and this and that. And these are competitions that I won, or our teams won. And a large part of that is because we aced the presentation. And
Exactly.
and that's really when I realized, it was in my 4th year of university when I looked back over my whole career, and I thought, like, why am I putting so much effort into engineering, which I'm not really that good at, when I have this other skill that I am good at. I'm able to understand technical terminology and then communicate that in a way that even regular people can understand. Whereas, my peers and colleagues who are geniuses with engineering, they're not able to do that. So that's kind of what I said earlier about understanding my own strengths and weaknesses, and then figuring out how I can contribute my strengths and somebody else can contribute their strengths, and together we can create something that's really great.
Exactly. Having the technical skills alone won't, expel you to a next level. You need to present that in a way that they understand. So you do something complex, and if you cannot explain to them, then there is no use at all. So the common people has to be, thought in a way that they are, able to understand things. So, final question. So it's not a question. So how is life in Japan? So you have moved from one country to another, and Japan is a very nice country. I always wondered how Japanese people are giving respect, and they are so genuine in their nature and characters. Kind of, I have seen a lot of people, and I have talked to a lot of people in Japan. So for the job thing and training thing and all, so they were very kind. So how is your experience on Japan?
Yeah, Japan is a wonderful place to visit. It's not it's not the ideal place for most people to live.
Okay.
And I say, well, it's not the most ideal place to live if you're working a regular full-time job. Okay. If you're running your own business, you are your own boss, that can be different because you have a bit more freedom. But if you're working a regular full-time job, or let me talk about what's wonderful about Japan. If you're a customer in Japan, and let's say you're a tourist, you will experience the best customer service and hospitality in the world, bar none. And that's not an exaggeration. But and everyone knows about the reputation that Japan has for their quality goods and products, right?
Yeah.
All of that is the result of an extremely strict intolerance for imperfection. The Japanese people as a culture highly value consistency and adherence to convention and rules at any cost. It doesn't matter whether or not something that's in front of you may actually possibly be better. But if there is an existing convention that's been passed down by somebody older or somebody from a previous generation, you don't question that. So they have that, you don't question your elders kind of a thing, which I find very restricting. It inhibits people from exploring and expressing themselves, and to it inhibits people from being innovative and thinking critically and independently, which I think is a valuable skill to have. But if you're on the flip side of that, if you're the consumer, that's great because you get the most consistent, most prompt, most timely and best quality service and products ever. But if you're on the other side of that, you're the person who's delivering that. That means that any tiny mistake you make, it doesn't even matter if the output that you produce is up to the standard. If your process of how you produce that output doesn't perfectly conform to the existing rules and the steps, you will be punished for it. It's that strict. And on top of that, it's also like, because you're expected to literally kind of give yourself 100%, everything you are, everything you have, to your employer, then it means that they see you not necessarily as a human, but just as a resource. Like, it's to the extreme of that. So although Japan, I often say this, I say Japan is extremely developed in terms of technology. It's a first world country, but the one place or the one area in which it's far behind all of the other first world countries in the world is when it comes to workers' rights and employees' rights. Yeah. So that's what I'd say. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So,
Yeah.
is it like we have to work, 9 to 5 or more than that, or I hear a lot of people say that we have to work, more than the regular, the world. The rest of the world works for limited amount of time, and Japanese people put a lot of effort and they work, beyond extra time. So, is it true or is it just a myth?
Yeah, they do. It all goes back to that idea of when giving your all, your 100% to your
Okay.
employer, even if that means sacrificing what is right and fair for yourself. You make that sacrifice for the benefit of your employer,
Okay.
and even the laws in Japan, they are, because of it's a democratic country, and there is a lot of lobbying and stuff. Large corporations and companies, they do give donations to certain political parties to support those campaigns, right? And so what even the government and the political parties in power, even they are reluctant to impose stricter laws to uphold workers' rights and employees' rights, because then they may lose the support of those corporations
Yeah.
that are they're putting in a lot of money. So the way that they have it set up is, on the surface, it looks okay. So the laws are, in there's a limit on the number of hours you can work in any given week,
Okay.
right? So in any other country, I went to university in Australia. So in Australia, what that looks like is, if in a given week, if an employee works over, I think it's 40 hours, for every additional hour, they need to be paid a higher hourly rate,
Okay.
right?
From
And
the regular works.
that's right, and that's fair. And for any given week, they need to have 2 days off, right? If they don't have
Okay.
2 days off, then they'll end up working over 40 hours, and then they have to get paid the
Yeah.
overtime. And then in addition to that, they need to have their public holidays, right? Because it's government
Okay. Yeah.
mandated public holidays. That's what they are.
Yeah.
So here in Japan, the way that the laws are written, and the way that you can kind of get through, find loopholes, and how most companies do this, is you have a limit on how many hours you can work in a week, but the calculation for that is done over a 1-year period.
Okay.
So if you add up the total number of hours you have worked in a year, and that total number of hours is less than 40 hours a week, then
Okay.
you're in the green. So even if an employer gets you to work, let's say 60 hours in 1 week, or let's say 80 hours in 1 week, if on the following week you have the week off, then by the end of the year, that averages out, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about like a
It's
worker's
compensated.
fatigue, like nobody can work 80 hours straight in a week. Can you imagine how exhausted you'd be? Right. So,
You
and they
won't
abuse
enjoy
that.
anything.
Exactly. And companies
Okay.
abuse that. And one really like terrible way that plays out is, you have public holidays and you get those public holidays off. But
Okay.
if there's been and my company does this, by the way, if there's been a public holiday on that given month, they'll ask you to work on Saturdays for that month
Okay.
to make up
So
for the additional
the
hours,
additional. Yeah.
right? So you would end up working like 48, 50 hours
Regular.
in that week, but at the end of the year, when they add up all of the hours you've worked, it averages out to less than that. And
Yes.
they can also say, oh yeah, we gave them the public holidays off, right?
Of
Kind of thing.
course. Yeah. They have these kind of strict rules. So
Yeah.
to make the perfection right, so they need to work a little harder. I think
Yeah.
that's the case with Japanese people.
Yeah.
So I think that's it for the day. So David, you can explain your course and how you conduct that, and if you have some links or something to share, you can do that.
Sure. There's links to everything that I do on my website,
Okay.
speaklikedavid.com. All my social media pages, all my courses, everything. And right now, the course that you're going to see ads for on social media is a course called the 12-Day Fluency Blueprint. The course is basically to answer the question, how do I become fluent, and how do I learn a language effectively? Of course, one of the most effective ways to learn a language is to go and immerse yourself. Get on a plane, go live in Australia, the UK, America, or Canada. You will learn English very easily without doing much study. You're immersed in your whole world will be in English, right?
Yeah.
But not everybody can afford that. So the next best option is perhaps to take lessons with a teacher. Again, not everybody can afford that. So with this one slogan that I often have is, you work with what you have, not with what you want. And of course, we all want to have like the best lessons for free. That's not going to happen. So this course teaches the psychology of how our brains process language learning and how we can apply that to the way that we learn independently by ourselves using resources that are available on the internet, which are either free or very affordable. And it's a 12-day course. At the end of the 12 days, your English level is not going to change because it's just 12 days. But at the end of the 12 days, you're going to be able to learn English a lot more effectively. So instead of taking you, 15, 20 years to reach, a certain level or a certain goal in your language learning, it's going to take you, perhaps half of that, 7, 8 years instead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So I think we have come to the end of the show. So
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of people, will take up your course and learn a lot on language development. So not only English, but many other language. They aspire to learn Japanese as well, Spanish, and the French people speaking. So there are a lot of people that they can learn. So thanks a lot, David. Thanks a
Yeah.
lot for joining in.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys, for joining in as well. So we will see you guys on next week on another talk show. Until then, take care. Bye bye. See you guys.
Bye.